and take it away.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, everybody. I'm a grateful alcoholic named Ginny, and I am here tonight because I want to be sober more than I want to be drunk. And I know I'm sober through the grace of God and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, you know, if it sounds strange that I'm kind of like choked up by saying that, my sponsor said that for the 17 years that she was my sponsor, every time she was called on, anytime at a meeting, it was the one thing that she was always afraid she was going to lose her memory. And she said, you know, dear Lord, if I forget everything else, don't let me forget that I'm an alcoholic. And so when she passed, I decided that I needed to keep saying that because it's a good reminder. And yes, Pasadena, California is the fun one. This is the boring one here in Maryland, where, you know, it's 10 inches of snow outside right now and it's cold. My sobriety date is June 17th of 1998. And it was a day that was picked for me again by a man who was, I had appointed as my father. His name was Judge Green. And, you know, that's how it was for me for a lot of years out there. The police were like my brothers, and Judge Green was like my dad. You know, they were self-appointed, but they were there for a reason because they definitely needed to be. Excuse me. You said, I'm going to turn the recording on, and my mind went, oh, just. It's hard for me sometimes, challenging for me sometimes to talk about God because it took me a long time to get there. It was one of those, definitely a mountain to climb. And I think it was hard for me because I did believe. When I was a kid, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, I went to church every Sunday. I sang in the choir. I went to Bible study. I did all the things that kids do in church, right? And I was going through communion, I believe, at the time. I was like 9 years old, and things had started to change for me. I realized that things in my household were not like other households, and that I was surrounded by secrets and sickness and a lot of abuse. And by the time I was 10, I knew a couple of things. I knew that there was a God, and I wasn't one of his children. And the reason why I thought that was because I sang the songs. I knew what they said. You know, they said, Jesus loves little children. God watches out for children, fools, and drunks. And I took that to heart. And I knew that I wasn't one of his children, because if I was, those things would have never happened to me. You know, and I also made a decision about people and family. And it was that family is the people that hurt you the most. And if they can do the things that they do, imagine what strangers will do. And I made a decision that I was never going to trust people. I was never going to love people. I was never going to let anyone close to me. I was just not going to let it happen because it was an excuse. Love was a 4-letter word, and for me, and so that's how I started living my life. I felt like I was outside of my family by the age of 10, and I was shut down. So I was primed up and ready when my sister, I just turned 11. My sister said to me, if you keep your mouth shut and act older, you can come with us tonight. And I thought, I can do that. So instead of going to this skating rink, we went across the street, we went into the woods. We sat around a big smoky fire, drank beer in Boone's Farm. And I watched people, and different things happen for different people. And I know I've heard it in the rooms where some people feel like they get funnier and wittier and taller and more courageous and, you know, a better lover and all those things. And as I sat around that fire, I realized what happened for me was all the things, the thoughts and the feelings that I didn't know how to deal with. they started to recede. And there came a point where it was like it was all the way to the back of my mind, and I could shut this door, and I no longer had to think about it or feel it or figure out what to do with it. And when that happened, I became numb, and I realized that I had the solution for living my life, because I didn't have to worry about it anymore, and I didn't have to feel about it. That was my goal, was I just wanted to be numb. And I realized I was going to do it again. At the age of 11, I started hitchhiking up and down the streets of Baltimore City and Anne Arundel County. And I would find the places that would let me come in and drink. I found the people who were willing to believe that I was 21 years of age, and I hung around with them. And I did that for years. And I got to tell you that I had no business being in the places I was in. I was hanging around with people 2 and 3 times my age, hitchhiking places, and I didn't care. I would walk out the door after my parents would go to sleep on a Friday night and just worry about getting back before they woke up. And you know, at that age, it wasn't very easy for me to do it a lot, but I did it as often as I could. I think that the downfall for me was I didn't get caught. So by the time I was, you know, one of those times when I was out there, you know, I was paying consequences that I didn't consider consequences because I'd already paid them. And things happened, and I got pregnant when I was 15, and I hid it. I was scared. I didn't feel like I was a part of my family. And my mother wasn't sure I was pregnant until the night I went in labor. And then, you know, I had that child, and the next day my mother said to me, you know, you're not keeping it. And, you know, back then you just said, okay. And it was another thing that I kind of stuffed down, like, yeah, I can't even do this. And I'm another disappointment and all those things. And by the time I was 17, I graduated high school. I was already tending bar at a place called Murph's Tabernacle outside of Baltimore City. And one day I said, screw this. I want to drink the way I want to drink, when I want to drink, with who I want to drink, and screw everything else. And I walked out of the house, and my parents didn't see me for 2 years. And I didn't have a place to stay, but I always had a place to stay. And I didn't have a vehicle, but I always had something to drive. And I became very good at manipulating people, making you think it was your idea that I would do certain things. And along with that came my first encounter, you know, with the boys in blue. And it wasn't so scary the first time. They threw me in a cell with like 20 other women, and I got out the next day, and, you know, I thought, oh, okay, that was kind of scary. But, you know, 3 times later, it wasn't scary anymore. And by then, they would throw me in one of those holding cells. They would slam that door shut, and I would lean back against that cinder block wall. And I would, in my mind, I'm saying, thank you. I'm letting out this big breath that I feel like I've been holding the entire time. And I'm saying, thank you. Because already the state of Maryland is doing for me what I can't do for myself. I drink 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until I pass out, wherever I pass out. And then I wake up and I do it again. And that's my life. It's what I do. I just need to be numb. And I can't face anything without that. So it's become this cycle, and it became comfortable. I have to tell you, what I considered the breaks got longer. It went from weekends to 30 days to 60 days to 90 days to 6 months. And it's no fun in Baltimore City Jail in summertime. There was no air conditioning. You're not getting gourmet meals in there, and I gotta tell you. And but I kept right on going. Right, it was not a consequence for me. I really felt like this is where I have to be, because I'm a danger to myself and to everyone around me when I pick up a drink, and I can't tell you what I'm going to do to get the next one. Unfortunately. And what happened was, after 2 years of me going before my
You're muted, Ginny.
Wow, how'd that happen? Okay. So after 2 years of going in front of Judge Green, he got tired of seeing me. And he said to me, you know, that your charges aren't that bad today, but I am tired of seeing you. So I'm going to send you down to Maryland Correctional Institute for Women for 2 years. And when he went bang with the gavel, it wasn't one of those, oh crap moments. I don't want to do that. It was this is just what I need. And how sick is that? That I know I need to be behind bars. And I thought that being behind bars was the answer because it was the only thing that kept me from a drink. And I went down there and I read and I wrote and I worked out for 2 years and nothing changed because I didn't know something needed to. I didn't know that this was a disease that manifests itself in my mind. I didn't know that if I didn't put something between me and a drink, that I was just going to drink again. When nothing changes, nothing changes. And nobody came up to me with a pot of coffee and a box of donuts and said, we've got the answer for you. And I didn't know anything needed to change. I just thought, I need to learn how to go to sleep at night instead of passing out. I need to learn how to wake up instead of coming to. I need to learn how to eat 3 meals a day again and wash my clothes and wear, you know, clean things and do things that normal people do. So after 2 years down the cut, which is what we call it in Maryland, I got released. It was an evening. I stopped at the Bullpen Bar on Patapsco Avenue. I had 2 drafts, and the worst thing that could have happened. Nothing. I went home, and I was pregnant again. I had my son in jail, and so here I start this cycle of I'm trying to take care of a baby I have no feelings for because I don't know how to have feelings. I'm trying to do a job that I don't know how to do, but I know I'm supposed to. I'm trying to be a part of this family that I've never felt a part of, and I don't want to be here. And I'm controlling my drinking. And for the next 6 months, I did that. And the big book talks about it very effectively. And I went through all those permutations that we do to make it work. And 6 months after that, I was walking out the door one morning. My mother had my son. I turned around and said, see you later. And she didn't see me for 5 years because the switch had gotten flipped again. And I don't know, there used to be this commercial on Animal Planet where it had this, they were getting out of the car and there was a little parking meter there and they put money in. And when they turned that little knob, the whole world flipped. And that's me on alcohol. My whole world flips. And the things that I do, I never thought that I would do, and more. You know, can't control it. And I will do whatever I have to do for the next drink. So it started another, quite a few more years of insanity for me. And I learned a lot in prison. I learned you can, you know, if you're paying attention, you learn all kinds of things. And I did things differently. I became a pharmaceutical representative, and my drinking escalated. And got to tell you that I did things with people I had no business knowing, going places I had no business being, and I'm lucky to be alive. I really am. I'll tell you about my last day out there. Because it was a day of insanity, which for me was just normal. And I had been up for like 3 days drinking. I didn't have a place to stay, but I was in this place. I was pregnant again, because that's what happens when nothing changes, nothing changes. The cycle just keeps repeating itself. And I don't care. I can't feel anything, so I don't care. I had about, I don't know how many charges, but I knew there were 2 no bails on my head because I don't show up for court. You bring me in shackles and chains, that's, you know, you got to work for it. And I know I should not leave this house, but it's all about me and my self-centeredness. And I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I want to go over there. So I tell my hostage, who is my daughter's father, to go get this car that I hid around the corner, which I borrowed 6 months prior, but I've still got it. And I get in this car in my best disguise, which is just putting my hair up into a baseball hat and thinking nobody knows me. And off we go. And I forgot the most important thing, though, is that I'm a cop magnet. So we didn't get off the street, and the police were behind us with the lights flashing. And I looked at my hostage and I said, "Don't you dare stop this car." And he didn't. So here we are running through the streets of Glen Burnie, Maryland, in a high-speed chase. And we're left, right, left, right, left. I don't know where we are. All of a sudden, he pulls the car over, and I look at him like he grew another head. Now, that's fine if he had his spiritual awakening and he had a, but I hadn't had mine yet. So I jumped out of the car and I'm running. And I don't know where I'm running to. I'm running because I think I'm like, it's the Olympics. And don't forget now, I'm pregnant and I'm drinking. And it is a beautiful June afternoon. People are out cutting their grass, weeding their flower beds, having cookouts. And here I come, like the book talks about, that proverbial tornado, right through it all. And I am over a fence and through, somebody's yard, and over another fence and through somebody's yard. And I just, it's just like that hurdle event in the Olympics. All I kept doing was hopping fences over through another yard, hopping fences. And here I get, and my mind is racing. What am I going to do? How am I getting out of this? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's a nonstop tape up there, and I can't get it to stop because I'm insane right now. And I hop another fence. I'm running through the yard. I see 2 picnic tables stacked on top of each other, and it was like one of those Bugs Bunny Roadrunner cartoons. Thought bubble comes up, idea, and I grab one of the picnic tables and I swing it because I can hear the feet behind me. And I hit the cop behind me with the picnic table. I break his ankle and I say, "One down, one to go," and off I go, right? Because I know there's one more somewhere. And I can hear his feet too. So I go through 2 more yards, and I look to the left. Here's the last fence. I look to the left. There's the car that just jumped out of. I went in this big old semicircle. I'm thinking, how the heck did I manage that? But if I can just get to the road, everything will be fine. It's that insane thinking. I don't know what's going to happen after I get across that fence, but everything will be fine. And I got halfway across that fence, and the second cop grabbed me from behind, pulled me back into that yard, and we started fighting. And the next thing I knew, we were fighting over his gun. And the next thing I knew, thank God, the homeowner of that home, who'd been outside, helped him tackle me, put me on the ground, spraying both my wrists, sticking me in the cuffs, and cart me off to jail, And I don't say any of that for sympathy. I am grateful it happened. I am so grateful it happened. If I could remember what house it was, after all these years, I would go back and knock on that door and say thank you for restoring me to sanity, because that's what happens. As soon as you put cuffs on me, I am restored to sanity. I go from this ignorant, insane alcoholic to this polite, introverted person who writes poetry and things, to the police. Gotta tell you, it's a hoot. I would write poetry about my situation and where I was, being in prison and everything. And I would write it about different jobs, the security officers there. And I had one hanging on the door one time, and they read it and they said, "Can we have a copy of this?" And because it was just about the fact that it wasn't their fault I was there. It was just their job. And I had enough clarity of mind to at least be able to see that and not treat them, any other way than how they should have been treated. So I know I'm not going anywhere. I get back around to where I'm supposed to be, which is behind bars, because, and I believe this is where I'm supposed to be. And I hear one of the officers come in. I've made it down to, our holding till you go to court kind of thing. And he busts out laughing when he sees me and he says, I heard all about you, heard all about your charges. You're not going anywhere. Sit down and get comfortable because you're going to spend the next 60 years here. And it was just like that. I felt like he hit me upside the head. And I thought, what just happened? What do you mean 60 years? And I had to get out of the feed up line and go back up to my bunk. And I sat down on that metal bunk and I put my back against that cinder block wall. And I said, what just happened? Because I didn't think it was anything different from what I was doing before. What just happened? I'm doing the same thing I've always been doing. I don't know what just happened. What do you mean 60 years? And I started asking myself those questions. I don't know if you asked them, but I asked them. Why can't I be a mom? Why can't I be a daughter? Why can't I care about other people? Why can't I care about myself? Why can't I do anything without a drink? Why can't I breathe without a drink? And I didn't have any answers that night. And for the first time since I was probably 8 years old, I said, God, please help me. And I went to bed. Okay. I say I went to bed like I was in a nice place, in a nice bed. And it was a nice bed for me. I woke up the next day and everything was different. Now that I had still had that insane tape going, thinking I'm going to get out of this some way. If you just give me this much wiggle room. But the tape was gone. And that 20-pound rock that had been sitting in my gut was gone. And I just figured, okay, fine. This is home. I'm coming to terms with it. All right, cool. And for the first time, I decided I'll sign up for one of these AA meetings and see what the heck that is. Because in the 35 times that I have been behind bars, it was the first time that I decided to do that. And I went to my first AA meeting, and it wasn't even a nice meeting like this. I wasn't getting to wear what I wanted to wear, and I didn't have my nice fuzzy blanket to cuddle up with. And I sat in a room with a bunch of people wearing the same thing I was. There were 2 women up there, God bless them, doing service work. And what came out of them, I'm sure, was a message of hope. It was that mustard seed that we need to get planted. But I couldn't hear it. And I'm sitting there, what's going on? Oh, but she's tapping her foot, and that's so irritating. And what's going on? And I need to count the tiles. And what is she talking about now? And I'm counting the floor tiles now. And what's going on? And by the end of that meeting, I was just so screaming in my head, what is this about? And right before the meeting ended, the one lady, Connie, she kind of looked at me and she said, it never has to be this way again. And it was just like that again. I felt like she hit me upside my head. Those are what I call my God smacks now, and she got my attention. And in my head, I'm going, really? It doesn't have to be this way. I don't have to be sitting in here feeling like this. You don't have to be looking at me like this. I don't have to feel like I'm the worst thing that you ever pulled off your shoe. And there's no excuse for me. I'm a waste of space. I don't have to feel like this. And something in me changed. And I said, then show me how. And I started going to anything that had an A behind it. I don't care what it was, AA, NA, CDA, ACOA, whatever. I tried it. If it had an A, something, I tried it. Anonymous something or other. And what I found for me, because when I got here, I would have told you that my story was 90% other things and 10% alcohol. And with time and distance from a drink, I know that alcohol was always there. I know that I'm an alcoholic because I say I'm an alcoholic. And I know that no one can take that from me, and I can't give it up unless I choose to. And I found my home in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. You guys told me the things that I didn't want to hear. You told me the truth. You told me it was my responsibility to change. And you told me that you would walk through it with me. and I believed you. And I hadn't believed anybody in a long, long time. And I believed you, all of you. And I started doing whatever was suggested. And obviously, I'm 23 years sober. I'm not still behind bars. Things happened. And God worked in my life. I went back before that self-appointed father who was in that black robe, and I asked him for help for the first time, because almost every time I had been in front of a judge, it was him. And here I am pregnant again, and saying, hey, I think I have a problem. And he said, I'm going to give you some help. He said, because you've never asked me for it before. And folks, that was a huge thing, because, I'm a 3-time loser, and he should have never opened the door for me again. But he let me go as a prisoner of the state of Maryland, and I got some help at a rehab for 30 days, and I went back to him, and I said, that was so freaking cool. I learned so much, and I need more help. And I'm thinking, where's this coming from? But you know what? It's coming out of my mouth, and I'm saying it. And he said, I'm going to give it to you. And I went to a place for a year. It was the inpatient. I could have walked away at any time, but something had changed, and I couldn't tell you what it was. And he even asked me, he said, how do you know you're not going to run? And I said, because it's different. And he never asked me to define what it was, but he took me at that, and he let me get the help. And I'm forever grateful, because I needed that year, y'all. My secrets kept me sick. I had so many secrets, and I didn't know how to get above them. For years in this program, I felt like here is normal, and I'm still here. I'm not even hitting normal yet. I'm not even jumping up and being able to see over top the weeds. You might have put me back on the sidewalk of life, but I still feel like I'm walking in the gutter. And didn't feel like I deserved any of it. But I got a sponsor, and I got busy. And I know the gift of desperation kept me here for many, many years. 2-3 years, it was the gift of desperation. And I would worry about, it wasn't, I might get caught if I do something again. It was, what if I miss the most important thing I need to hear? That was what I used to worry about. What if I miss it? All I have left to look forward to is prison. What if I miss it? And thank God nobody ever said, this is the most important thing you need to know, because maybe maybe I would have stopped listening at that point. But thank God that never happened, But I don't know, the gift of desperation, I come in with it, but you can't maintain that level of despair if things are getting better. You can't. It's impossible. And my life was getting better just by putting the drink down and not doing the things I was doing, and I had to put something else there. And I couldn't even say the word God yet. Here we're talking 2 and 3 years sober, and I can't say the word God. It won't come out. And the group of drunks became my God. And I went everywhere with a group of drunks, and I filled my car and surrounded myself with that fellowship that the book talks about. And I began just getting comfortable with people, because it used to be, I couldn't even be around people. I had been such an antisocial person, and just doing what you do and thinking about other things besides me was challenging, and then finally, I feel like I got out of the waiting room when my grandmother died. Here I am, I'm 5 years sober at this point, stark raving sober. And my grandmom died. And my sponsor at the time said, I would like you to take the 2 letters that you wrote that you refused to do anything with and go down to the graveyard and read it, because my grandmom was getting buried in the same graveyard that my father and my grandfather were in. And I said, what we all say when you don't want to do something. I said, fine. And I went to the funeral, and then I went to my grandfather's grave, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I didn't remember as much of the things that he had done to us. But I got to my father's grave, and it was a huge deal. I mean, I don't have like a memory of my childhood. I have snapshots. And I know today that it's God's way of protecting me from remembering too much. And the snapshots that I had of my dad weren't pretty. So I'm at his headstone, and I've got this letter, and I'm trying to read it. And I'm just thinking to myself, just get through the letter. Just do it. You never have to come back to Galax, Virginia again. As long as you live, just do it. And I finished the letter. I start to walk away, and there's this little voice in my head that says, look at the headstone, Ginny. And I'm like, nope. Took 2 more steps, and the voice said, look at the headstone, Ginny. And I turned around and looked at the headstone. My father's birthday is my sobriety date. And it's just, I swear, you know, I love God because of it, because he never lets me miss it. Thank you. He doesn't let me miss it. And I would, you know, and I have to say the same thing for you guys. Thank you for not dressing it up, for not putting little shiny bows on it and glitter and sparkle and trying to make me figure it out, because I don't think I could. I'm a fairly smart person, but I'm too smart sometimes, I think, to get this thing if you dress it up and make me think about it too much. And you know, I changed right then. All of that guilt and shame and remorse that I couldn't figure out how to get rid of fell away from me. You know, the 2 men that had still been sitting on my shoulders every single day, who had abused us as children for years, they fell away. And I found out that I could make decisions in my life not based on yesterday's guilt. And that was huge for me. You know, I came back, it physically changed the way I looked. Because when I walked into my home group after that, they came over to me and they said, what did you do? And I thought, first off, back up. And second, what are you talking about? And they said, you have gone from hard and prickly to soft and fuzzy. And at 5 years of sobriety, I thought that was the nicest thing anybody had ever said to me. And I was like, all right, maybe this thing really is working the way it's supposed to. And this isn't really about my sponsor trying to figure out new and unique ways to make me do things for her entertainment. You know, it's all about me and helping me walk through what I need to walk through so I can live a happy, sober, healthy life. And, you know, in 2010, I realized that I was the only one left with the whip. There was, when I came in here, there was this choir up in my head, and they were singing to me in 4-part harmony. You're no good, you're no good, you're no good, baby, you're no good. And it was, you know, at 10 years of sobriety, I realized the choir was gone, but there was still this soloist up there. And the soloist was me. And I realized, at what point am I going to think that I am good enough? And I kind of realized that, you know, God loves me, not in spite of the things that I've done, but because of the things that I've been through. And that God walked through all of it with me. God held me through the worst of it. God put me down when I walked into my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And today he's always with me because I want him to be. Because I believe every day God is with me, and I ask him every day to stay with me and guide my thoughts and words and actions, to help me be of service to someone else, and to step on my tongue when you need to, still. You know, and I do that because I believe God is a gentleman, and he doesn't go where he's not asked. That's just for me. He let me destroy my life, but he was there holding me through all of it. And as soon as I said, God, please help me, he came rushing in to help me pick up the pieces of my life. I say he came rushing in. He was still there the whole time. I was just able to feel it then. It was still, as soon as I figure I've got God, that's when everything falls apart, and you kind of like, oh my goodness. And that's what happened in 2010 too. My life kind of fell apart and in all kinds of different ways. And it was a good experience in learning how resilient we are as alcoholics, where if you can lose, the material things around you and not have to take a drink and don't feel like, I'm never going to make it out of this, because you've already made it out of the worst thing that you ever have to, right? At least I did. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here. In 2018, my sponsor at the time got sick, and she wound up having to go into one of those rehab places, and I was dead set against it, but she needed to go there, and so I would go over there, 3 and 4 times a week and spend time with her and play cards and get stuff for her and do things for her. And during that time, there was like a women's retreat thing that I got in the mail, and I thought, oh, that's really cool. I've never been to one of them. I'd like to go to one of those and see what that's all about. So I had sent back the flyer, and I said, I can't afford this year, but don't take me off your mailing list. And I kept doing what I was doing. And about 2 months later, one of my favorite retreats, Blackstone, came up, and I sent the flyer back, and I was like, I can't afford this year, but keep me on the mailing list. Don't take me off. And 2 weeks before Blackstone, I got a letter in the mail, and it said, we sometimes give scholarships to people that we think need some help. And we want you to come this year to the women's retreat. And I thought, this is so cool. I'm going to get to go to this. I really appreciate that. And thank you very much. And 5 days later, I got a call from one of the Blackstone committee. And they said, hey, we have this thing we do sometimes with scholarships. And I started laughing, and I'm like, and I almost said, and they said, we want you to come this year. We think you need to come this year. And I almost said no, because too much good stuff. I don't deserve all this, right? Here I am, it's 2018. I'm 20 years sober. And here, sometimes I still think I don't deserve the good things that are happening in my life. And something in me said, just say yes, Ginny, because I could hear my sponsor saying, when somebody says something, just say yes. And so I said, yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I wouldn't have been able to come this year if you hadn't done this. The night before Blackstone, my sponsor died. And I called 3 people. They were all in AA. And she'd been my sponsor for almost 18 years. And one of them was the committee member at Blackstone. And I called him up and I said, Blanche just passed. And there was a long silence. And he said, you're still coming. And I had another long silence. And I said, you're right, I'm still coming. And I went down there the next morning, and it was, God knew what I needed before I needed it. He put you in my life again so that I would be surrounded by the things that I needed to be surrounded by the love of one drunk for another, for the people that I need to be surrounded. And I grieved there, and it was what I needed. And then 2 weeks later, I went to that other retreat, and I got to tell you, by then I was pretty angry, because that's that whole cycle in grief. And I was pretty darn angry. And there was a retreat master there who I got 30 minutes with privately, and I got to talk to her about that anger. And then she shared with me something that changed the way I felt. And I know that that is God working in my life when I can't do for me. There are so many times, even today, when I feel like I know I need to do something, but what? And often it is the voice of AA that I hear in my head, or I have to be open to for something new, because I never know when I've gotten complacent or stagnant or don't know what I don't know, and I need something new. And about 3 years ago, I realized that the happiness of my life now depends upon the quality of my thoughts. And I didn't like where some of my thoughts were at times, and I needed to change them. And I really started focusing on step 7 and step 11. It has changed my sobriety. When I'm always saying in a situation that might have previously angered me or upset me, and I immediately turn it around to me and say, why is this bothering you? This isn't personal. This is someone else's situation. You don't have to pick this up and roll around in it, and feel any drama. This is not yours. And I was having some hard time with that, with emotions and regulating my emotions and stuff in sobriety. And I got to tell you, I don't like being dragged around in sobriety by my emotions. It's no fun. And so I started meditating at night. There's this really cool, I'm not advocating anything here, just telling you my experience. There's this really cool program called Headspace, where it's on TV. It's anybody can do it. And I was like, I'm going to try it, right? So, and it walks you through all those things that I'm sitting there thinking about. Yeah, your mind's going to wander off again. You're going to start thinking thoughts again. You're going to do this. And I'm like, you're right, but it doesn't matter as long as you're just trying. And I made a point that I was going to do this, every night, no matter for how long, whether it was 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. I'm going to do this. And it's within a month, people could see a change in me and how I was reacting, not only personally, but professionally. Where, when you're on one of those long car rides, and you like take it down to that low gear, and it's just like just riding along. And I thought, man, I have found a new gear in sobriety where I am just feeling things comfortable in my own skin, not afraid of new situations, the situations that used to baffle me. They don't baffle me anymore. And I spend a lot of time still thinking about how can I improve? I don't want to make the same mistakes anymore. And my sponsor always told me, if you're making the same mistakes, you're not growing. It's okay to make mistakes, just make different ones. So I spend a lot of time doing that as well. I know for me today that my love of sobriety is going to keep me sober a lot longer than my fear of drinking. And I love my sobriety today. It has given me things that I never thought I would get. You're talking about somebody who was comfortable in prison. And I've been to the White House twice now. I've introduced Joe Biden twice for different things now. And it's one of the greatest byproducts of my sobriety that I never expected. And it's really cool things that I say, one of these days when I have grandkids, I'm going to be able to tell them these really cool stories about, look at where I was and look at where I've come to and look at where I still have to go. There's still a lot more in my life to live. And I figure I got another, 40, 50 years to go. Yeah. Some of you are saying that's not adding up, but I'm optimistic. So I was sitting in a meeting after my sponsor passed. It took me about almost a year. And I was listening to this woman talk, and I'm just sitting, she's behind me somewhere, and she's saying things. And I had that Scooby-Doo moment where she's saying something and I kind of perked up. And she said some more, and my head kind of tilted to the side, like, whoop. And And she said some more, and the thought in my head was, God just put her in your life. You need to go ask her to be your sponsor. And that's what I did after that meeting. And that's what happens for me is that my mind it's open like a parachute, and I'm afraid sometimes that I'm going to catch more than air, but I hear things today, and I'm open to whatever is being suggested, and it's a good thing for me. My daughter was here today. Now this is the girl that when I got locked up, I was pregnant with her. This woman, young woman, has never seen me drink or anything else. She has grown up in Alcoholics Anonymous. She's like the little voice in the back seat where you're talking to your sponsee or something, and we kind of forget she's in the car. And then out of the back seat, this little voice of reason pipes up, "The only thing you can change is your attitude." And this is the girl who's grown up around Alcoholics Anonymous. And she was here today. She's not happy about her current situation. I'm doing a major home renovation right now, and they used to live down in the basement. Well, the upstairs is gutted, and I'm down in the basement. They're living at her fiance's parents' house, and she's not happy about it. Evidently, they're not very big on cleaning, and she's in my kitchen today, and she says, I really miss this. I said, what is it that you miss, Shay? She said, being in a kitchen that's clean and things were where they're supposed to be. That might not be a big thing to you. But, I'm amazed when I wake up in the morning and I wake up in a bed with clean sheets and I know what I did last night. And I walk to the kitchen and I turn on the light and the electric comes on, and then I go over to the fridge and I open it and there's actually food in there. And then when I go to wash my face, water comes out of that tap. That may not sound like a big deal, but I can tell you, if you live without it, that it's a big deal when you do have it. And those are the things I appreciate today. I appreciate being able to get in my car with the right tags and the right sticker on that tag with a valid license, be able to drive up the street and not have to worry about police officers pulling me over anymore. Because that hot feeling that used to come up on the back of my neck, and it took 3 years for that to go away. I don't get that feeling anymore because I know that I am sober, and I'm sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that in these rooms, I hear the voice of God. And I feel angels' wings on my neck and around my shoulders when I get a hug from one of you, because that's what you are for me. I'm going to read something from the big book because it's how I feel about Alcoholics Anonymous today and the first day that I got here. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. So, many a man yet dazed from his hospital experience stepped over the threshold of that home into freedom. Many an alcoholic who entered there came away with an answer. He succumbed to that gay crowd inside who laughed at their own misfortunes and understood his. Impressed by those who visited him, he capitulated entirely when he heard the story of some man whose experience closely tallied his own. The expression on the faces of the women, that indefinable something in the eyes of the men, the stimulating and electric atmosphere of that place conspired to let him know that here was haven at last. And this is my haven. And I want to thank you guys for letting me be a part of this. Thank you for letting me share. And